The live action Avatar: The Last Airbender is now on Netflix. Is it any good? Let's find out right now.
I don't know where this will all lead. The one thing I do know is this is just the beginning.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. As I said in the intro, I'll be reviewing Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is going to be a no spoiler review, but I will go into, characters in depth because, everyone's kind of seen the original animated show. So, I'm going to do it no spoilers, but I will talk about the show in depth just a little bit. So, I will say, before we get started, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. It's free to do so. We're on the road to 600 subscribers. I'm going to do you guys a quick plot synopsis just so you know what the show is about. A young boy known as the Avatar must master the four elemental powers to save a world at war and fight a ruthless enemy bent on stopping him. So I will say some of my first thoughts about this show are that, I do want to talk about the original animated show just for a little bit. I'm a huge fan of that show. That show kind of got me through my childhood. That's what I watched when I grew up. It's like my second favorite animated show, just behind Arcane. I think Arcane's, my favorite animated show. But I will say, I got to tell you the truth, I haven't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender in many years. So there's so many plot points that I kind of forgot about that show. But I do know I love that show, and I do know that, it's been a while, and so I did forget a lot. So I kind of went into the live action show kind of not knowing all the major plot points, but I do knew some stuff that was going to happen, from the first episode, from the second episode, the Kyoshi warriors and all that, and Zuko coming with the Fire Nation. So I do know a little bit there. I do remember a little bit, but a lot of the plot points I kind of forgot. So I kind of went in blind to this, not knowing what was going to happen because I forgot so many things here. But I was still worried about this adaptation because it's always a struggle turning like an animated show into a live action show. I feel like the One Piece fans know that in particular because they were all worried about the live action show, but I love the live action One Piece show. I think a lot of One Piece fans were happy with that live action show. But you know how everyone's worried for Avatar because of how M. Night Shyamalan, kind of destroyed that movie. The M. Night Shyamalan movie was like ridiculous. I don't know how that passed anything. I remember seeing that. I didn't see it in theaters, but I remember seeing that at home, and I was like, what the hell is this? This is like nothing like the original show. I don't know if that was studio interference with him or that was just him, but we can all agree that that's probably one of the worst movies of all time, and it just did so much damage to M. Night and to the fans of that show. I think everyone was sad after watching that. But I'm glad to say that I think this is a great show, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I will say it's not a perfect and not a one-to-one adaptation. There are some things that are changed that I, ended up looking up at the end. But man, I really did enjoy seeing these characters like Aang, Katara, Sokka, Suki come to life in live action. The bending, the water bending and the fire bending looked really cool. I loved all that. So me myself, I really enjoyed it a lot. I know this show, I think right now on Rotten Tomatoes is like a 70%. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it as much as me. A lot of true fans aren't going to like it as much as me. Some will. It's all come down to personal preference, but I really did like this live action effort by Netflix and the whole cast. And I know that the original creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender did leave over, there's something over creative differences and all that. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I do know that we're also getting some more Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of movies coming very soon. I think in like 2 years, in a continuation of the show. So I'm very excited for that. But I will say, I thought this show was great. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm really hoping that it does well for Netflix so we can get them to finish, the whole series, adapt book 2 and adapt book 3, because I do remember a lot from book 3. I remember book 3 is just, one of the best, one of the best seasons of television ever created. Book 3 goes insane, especially the last episode. Last episode, it's probably one of my favorite episodes of television ever. And watching this show kind of made me want to go back and, binge and relive the original series again, because how it just takes you back into those memories of just watching the original series for the first time. And probably after I finish this video, I will probably go start the original series because, as I said, it's been a couple years since I watched that original series and I got to get back on it. So I kind of do recommend it. After watching the live action show, go back into the original animated show. That's what I'm going to do. I feel like it's just the best way to pass time until we get book 2. I do want to kind of talk about the VFX just for a little bit and kind of the volume. I think, because this show is, heavily relies on VFX. So you have all the elements, you have all the bending, water bending, fire bending, air bending, you know. And I think that the bending in the VFX mostly all look pretty clean. I liked how they all looked, especially the opening scene. You get right into it with a lot of bending there, and I liked how it just started very fast. It wasn't a slow opening; it was a very fast opening. I did love all the flashbacks in the show. I think that was done very well. I forget if the original series has so many flashbacks, but I did like how they're doing flashbacks. Get me caught up on these characters because I said I did forget a little bit about these characters. And my biggest gripe though with the way the show looked was with the volume and just how overly polished everything looked. Because I feel like looking at some of the scenery in the show, you can agree that some of it just looked way too real and way too glossy. Like some of it it was just standing out just a little bit. And I don't know if that was like budget constraints or just they were just stuck on one set, so they had to just use volume for everything. I don't know what was going on there, but this show should have a huge budget, so I don't think it should look kind of ugly at times. And I think some characters, this is an issue with a lot of different franchises, so it's not just Avatar. It's an issue with Marvel too, Star Wars at times. Some characters stand out way too much on the volume, and you can just see that they're just on they're standing right in front of the volume screen. You can see that clear and day. So I think that's a big issue with a lot of franchises these days. They're just overusing the volume. They don't know how to use it like Greg Fraser did in the Batman. And I feel like you can just notice that in so many different scenes, especially with the Fire Nation with the Zula. You can see that she's standing on the volume, and Fire Lord Ozai. You can see that like clear and day. Like the contrast is pretty big. So yeah, I think the volume kind of didn't work a lot, but mostly all the bending looked pretty great to me. I do want to talk about the direction just for a little bit. I think this show had a lot of different directors for each episode, but I will say the direction didn't impress me that much. I thought the direction was pretty generic mostly through all the episodes. But I can say my favorite direction out of the all the episodes, and my favorite episodes out of all of them were the first two episodes. I love those episodes, and probably the last episode. Those were my three favorite episodes. And I thought that the direction on those episodes actually seemed like an upgrade compared to the other episodes. So yeah, those are my three favorite episodes. But I feel like episode 2 is definitely my favorite episode because I remember from the original series that Sokka and Suki, their relationship is one of my favorites. And I thought that Suki was great in this. I love Sokka. I love their kind of like, chemistry building in this. And it sucks we only saw, Suki for one episode, but we do get to see her, later, hopefully later in the series if they do adapt book 2 and book 3. Now let's get on to the cast, and I am definitely going to butcher some of these names, so I do apologize, but these names are pretty difficult for me to pronounce. But let's get into it. Playing Katara, we had Kia Wintio Tarbell. I thought she was great. I really did love her a lot in this series. But you do kind of notice her and Aang, the age difference in here is clearly noticeable a lot. So when they do have a romance, I think it's gonna be a little bit more weird in this series than it was in the animated show. But I thought she was great as Katara. She really did, stand out for me in the whole entire cast. And Gordon Comir as Aang, I thought he was also pretty great. He came into his own by the last episode. I loved his demeanor and everything that he stood for here. Dallas James Liu, who plays Zuko, I wasn't sold on him in the first episode, but I really did like where his character went because that's where Zuko's character arc just gets so good. I feel like Zuko has one of the best character arcs that I've seen in a long time, and I did love how he played him. Some of the line readings from him were just a little bit too much for me at times, but I thought he did a great job. Ian Oosley as Sokka was one that I saw a lot of people hating on, and a lot of people were worried about when he got cast, but I feel like he did a great job. I thought he was very funny, played Sokka in a great way. Sokka is supposed to be a kind of funny character. And I loved his chemistry with Maria Zhang, who plays Suki. I think that this is Maria's first kind of big acting role. I thought she did very well as Suki, and I loved Ian and Maria's chemistry in those moments in episode 2. So I just loved that, and I loved both of them together. I thought they both did great. And another big standout for me is of course Paul Sung Hung Lee, who plays Uncle Iroh. Uncle Iroh is one of my favorite characters from the original animated show, and I thought that Paul did a great job. He's hilarious. He does great with Zuko, and Zuko and Uncle Iroh's chemistry is some of the best chemistry in the whole entire animated show. So I will say the whole cast did great, but those are my favorites. Favorite characters are it's of course going to be like Aang, Katara, and Sokka. But I thought my two favorite characters in here were Sokka and Suki. I thought they got the Sokka and Suki chemistry down really well, and I just loved that episode too. And I was just like, can we just get back to there? Can we just go back to those two characters? I just thought their chemistry was done so well here. So those are my favorite characters. So overall, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action show, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was great. As I said, it's not perfect. It's not a one-to-one adaptation, but I will say it's a really fun binge. If you're gonna, if you're wanting to find another event television show, this should be right up your alley. I would suggest binging it or just watching 3 episodes at a time. I feel like that's the best way to digest this whole thing. And I'm really hoping that Netflix does make book 2 and book 3, because I'd be there day one. I binged it in like 10 hours. I was just kind of mesmerized with how everything looked. It's a way better adaptation than M. Night's, let's just say that. I loved a lot of character moments in here. I thought it was great. A lot of people aren't going to like it as much as me, but that's all right. But Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. I feel like, it's going to work with a lot of people. I feel like Netflix did a pretty good job, but I'm also very excited for those new Avatar movies coming out in a couple years. Let me know, did you guys watch Avatar: The Last Airbender live action on Netflix? If you did, leave your thoughts down below in the comments. If you did enjoy this review, make sure to leave a like, helps it a lot. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.